This is the story of the three kings who died in battle. Their deaths would shock the world and change the course of history forever. This is the legendary Battle of the Three Kings. But after the death of their beloved Sultan Muhammad al-Sheikh al-Sadi, the dynasty was in shambles. Now, the people of Morocco were looking for a new leader to take over the throne. But it seemed that everyone had an equal claim to the throne. And so began a power struggle between these ambitious claimants. Our story begins in the mid-16th century when the great Saudi dynasty ruled over the Maghreb region, encompassing modern-day Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. One of them was the current Sultan Abd al-Malik al-Saud. Soon al-Maslak, along with the Portuguese, managed to lay siege to the Moroccan capital. Although Abd al-Malik managed to repel the attack, his health continued to deteriorate. In fact, by the time the decisive battle of Wadi al-Mex took place, he was already too sick to command the army. Don John had always been overshadowed by his legitimate half-brother, King Sebastian I. When Sebastian left Portugal for Italy, Don John seized the opportunity to launch his own bid for power. He raised an army and marched on Lisbon, forcing Joanna to flee to Spain. They had defended their homeland against a powerful European invader and had emerged victorious. The battle was a turning point in the history of North Africa, and it marked the end of Portugal's colonial ambitions in the region. Don John then proclaimed himself the rightful king of Portugal, but his reign was short-lived. We've poured our passion for storytelling into this project, and each episode is like a mini adventure that takes you to different corners of the world and through different periods of history. There's no script, no over-researched facts or talking points, just two friends having a conversation about the craziest, weirdest, and sometimes darkest aspects of human history. If you're a fan of educational content and want to learn more about the world around you, then you will love our podcast. He went on to conquer vast territories and establish a powerful empire that stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. Meanwhile, Portugal's North African empire was in sharp decline. The country was never able to recover from the loss of so many men at the Battle of Wadi al-Makhzin, and its colonial ambitions were curtailed as a result. At the Battle of Wadi al-Makhzin, Don John led the Portuguese forces into battle against the Moroccans. He fought bravely, but was ultimately defeated and killed. You see, after the battle, the heads of the three kings, Abd al-Malik, Sebastian, and Don John, were cut off and hung from the walls of the Kasbah of the three kings in the city of Qasr el-Kibir as a warning to future invaders. However, centuries later, in the early 20th century, the French, who were then ruling Morocco, removed the heads from the walls and threw them into the sea. The heads were never recovered, and the mystery of their disappearance remains unsolved to this day. Some say they were taken to Europe as trophies of war, while others believe they were lost forever in the depths of the ocean. Whatever the truth may be, the heads of the three kings serve as a reminder of the brutal realities of war and the high price that is often paid by those who are caught in the crossfire. His death effectively ended the Portuguese claim to the throne and paved the way for the House of Braganza to take power. It fell to his younger brother, Ahmad al-Manzur, to lead the Moroccan troops in his stead. Unfortunately, the task was far from easy. On one side was the Saudi dynasty, a Moroccan empire that was trying to assert its dominance over the region. On the other side was the Kingdom of Portugal, a European power that was trying to expand its colonial empire. Ultimately, It was the Saadi dynasty that emerged victorious, but the battle itself was costly and resulted in the deaths of 3 kings. He was backed by the vast military and economic resources of the mighty Ottoman Empire. The battle took place in the Wadi el-Makhzin, a river located near the city of Sar el-Kiber in northern Morocco. Today, the area is a popular tourist destination, but during the 16th century, it was the site of a bloody battle between the Moroccan and Portuguese armies. The Portuguese were the first to arrive at the battlefield, and they set up camp near the river. They were confident in their ability to win the upcoming battle, as they had a larger and more experienced army than the Moroccans. Additionally, the Portuguese were well equipped with firearms and artillery, which gave them an advantage over their opponents, who relied mainly on swords and shields. The Moroccans, however, had a secret weapon: their knowledge of the terrain. The battle took place in a swampy and hilly area, which made it difficult for the Portuguese to maneuver their troops. The Moroccans used this to their advantage, launching surprise attacks from all sides. The battle was long and bloody, and neither side was able to gain a decisive victory. As the sun began to set, it became clear that the Portuguese were in trouble. They were exhausted and their supplies were low. To make matters worse, they were being attacked by both the Moroccans and members of local tribes who had joined the fray. Realizing that they were in danger of being surrounded, the Portuguese made a desperate attempt to break through the Moroccan lines. However, they were met with fierce resistance, and the few Portuguese who did manage to escape were pursued by Moroccan horsemen. By the end of the battle, the Portuguese had suffered a crushing defeat. Many of them were killed or captured, and their army was in ruins. Sebastian came to power in 1557 after his father, King John III, died. Unlike his father, Sebastian had no interest in ruling the kingdom. He preferred to live a life of luxury and pleasure. As a result, he left the actual work of governing the country to his half-sister and regent, Joanna, who was also his wife. However, Joanna had her own ambitions, and she wanted to rule Portugal independently of her brother. She went against Sebastian's wishes and married the Duke of Braganza, establishing a powerful noble dynasty. When Sebastian learned of this, he tried to stop the wedding, but he was unsuccessful. Infuriated by his sister's actions, Sebastian decided to leave Portugal and seek his fortune elsewhere. He traveled to Italy, where he joined the Spanish forces fighting against the Ottoman Empire. Sebastian hoped that by making military conquests in North Africa, he could return to Portugal and use his newfound power to take control of the kingdom. Unfortunately for him, his plans were thwarted when he was killed in the Battle of Wadi. Another contender was Muhammad al-Mutawakkil al-Saadi, better known as al-Masluk, or the Anointed. He was supported by King Sebastian I of Portugal. Unlike his older brother, Abd al-Malik Ahmad was everything a warrior king should be. He was brave, cunning, and charismatic. All of these qualities made him very popular among the people of Morocco, and the soldiers in his army looked up to him as a true leader. Ahmad's military prowess was evident in the way he led the Moroccan army to victory against the Portuguese. He was able to outmaneuver the enemy and make use of the element of surprise, which caught the Portuguese off guard. After winning the battle, Ahmad went on to become the Sultan of Morocco, and he ushered in a golden age for the Saadi dynasty. Under his rule, Morocco became a major player in international affairs, and the country's economy flourished. Our first protagonist is Sultan Abd al-Malik al-Saadi, the ruler of Morocco at the time. Unfortunately, not much is known about this monarch. What we do know is that he became the Sultan of Morocco in 1557 after the abdication of his father, the great Sultan Muhammad al-Sheikh al-Sa. However, Abd al-Malik's reign was far from glorious. While his father expanded the Saudi dynasty's territory and promoted trade, Abd al-Malik's rule was marked by instability and conflict. The main reason for this was his deteriorating mental state. Some sources say he suffered from clinical depression, while others claimed he was an addict. Whatever the case may be, his condition was getting worse every day. But despite this, he managed to keep control of Morocco and even went on to wage several successful campaigns against the Kingdom of Fez. With both contenders ready to go to any lengths to seize the throne, civil war seemed inevitable. And so, in 1577, al-Maslak marched on the Moroccan capital with his Portuguese allies. But Abd al-Malik, despite being outnumbered, managed to repel the attack. So now he wanted to finish the job. Abd al-Malik assembled a massive army. His brother, Ahmad al-Mansur al-Dahabi, who later became the legendary Sultan, Ahmad al-Mansur was put in charge of the army. Along with him were many other experienced generals. Then Abd al-Malik set a trap for the Portuguese. He sent his brother a letter telling him to meet him at a neutral location to discuss peace terms. But in reality, it was a ruse to lure the Portuguese into a deadly ambush. When the unsuspecting Portuguese fell for the trick, they arrived at the rendezvous point only to be met by a massive Saudi army instead of the small contingent they were expecting, and so began one of the greatest battles in African history. Now let's get back to the epic clash of arms. That was the Battle of Wadi. However, everything changed when his cousin, Muhammad al-Mutawakkil al-Sadi, challenged his rule with the help of the Portuguese. Leading the Portuguese army was none other than King Sebastian I of Portugal. Next, we have the warrior king of the Saudi dynasty, Ahmad al-Mansur. The last member of our tragic trio is the Portuguese infante, Fernando Alvarez de Castro, also known as Dom John, the illegitimate son of King John III of Portugal. Despite the involvement of these larger-than-life characters, the Battle of Wadi al-Makhzin was not really about individual glory, but rather about the struggle for power between two great empires. Now, let's see how the battle unfolded. As the victors, the Moroccans had every right to be proud of their achievement. In the aftermath of the battle, the Moroccan Sultan, Abd al-Malik al-Sadi, wasted no time in consolidating his power. If you think the story is over, then you are wrong, because there is still one more thing to tell you about the fate of the three kings. But before we leave you today, we want to talk about something that is close to our hearts, our podcast